Welcome today, guys. This is an amazing time. This is Luka, and I'm here with an amazing man, a man who fears God, a man, he's a pastor. I don't know if he likes to be called too much of a pastor sometimes.
I'm comfortable either way, man.
Okay, yeah, so he's a great man of God. You are a true legend in a lot of aspects of life. And I truly, when I was coming up in business, special real estate, let me say,
Mhm.
I've always was always watching you. Like, man, this guy's, and realizing that you were way, 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 way ahead. And so today I have the pleasure of just, being here with you, kind of going through some Q&A, and I think it's gonna be a blast.
Yeah.
So for everybody that's joining, this is Pastor Andrew. I'm gonna have him introduce himself. Before we go on, please go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you click um, the follow so that you can actually get all the videos that are coming, all the people that are going to be coming here speaking. Again, go ahead and also follow us on social media such as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And our goal is to grow 1% better every time. And I'm pretty sure by this man of God being here, you're going to grow a lot more than that. So, Pastor Andrew, please tell us about yourself.
Man, first of all, it's just a privilege to be here with you.
Yeah.
Apart from the name, I kind of almost feel like you introduced the wrong person, but I am super glad to be here with you, and it's a
Yeah.
real honor, and it's someone I've respected and appreciate so much what you're doing.
Amen.
And I think it's awesome that you're spreading the message, even further than locally. So thank you so
Yeah.
much for having me.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So tell us about yourself. You're a legend in the business. You've been in for a while.
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit about your background, where you come from, where you're coming up, and things like
Yes.
that.
So I came all the way from the state of New Hampshire.
Oh.
So the next closest state I could get to. I actually lived in Western Mass for a little bit. I don't usually tell people in Maine that because they have this thing with Massachusetts.
Yeah.
But here in the confidence of this room, I'll share that with you. And
Mhm.
then I spent some time in South Carolina,
Oh, really?
down there for undergrad and for grad school. And I was
Okay.
married. My wife and I then moved down there for about 5-6 years.
Okay.
Kind of got interested in real estate at the time, made up business cards, and then didn't do a single deal. But that's kind of where that started. And then moved back to Maine, not for the purpose of real estate, but actually for the purpose of church, starting a church
Okay.
in the Biddeford area.
All right.
And then sort of real estate came around by accident. So
So, so what did you do before real estate? Like for work and things like
yeah,
that.
so I was mostly in construction.
Okay.
So I did when I was in South Carolina. I worked for a high-end tile installer, which we also did some like remodeling projects. I learned a
Okay.
lot from him. I worked for actually, during the summers, I'd work for an Italian builder. He was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Really great reputation. I had a tree company for a couple years in
Yeah.
South Carolina, and sort of came into that on accident. So we did tree trimming, tree removal,
Wow.
and a little bit of lot clearing and
Yeah.
utility clearing, things like that. And then came back to Maine, and I thought I would just kind of apply for a job. And my master's degree in divinity didn't really help with getting a job. And
Yeah.
so I was looking really hard for a job. And meanwhile, I was also working full time doing construction.
Mm.
And then I was like, well, I kind of already have a job.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I'm looking for. So we kind
Mm.
of jumped into construction, and we started off doing small remodels,
Mm-hmm.
tiling, stuff like that. We did a home build, and
Mm.
so not, but a lot of remodeling, particularly some historic homes
Mm-hmm.
or homes that had like a loan where you buy the home and then you do renovations along
Yeah.
with the purchase.
Yeah.
We kind of do those, at that
So
time.
you were kind of already in real estate, but you're in the construction side of the things.
Yes, yes, we had some
Okay.
amazing clients. Loved our clients.
Yeah.
I think I kind of went a little crazy one day when this is one client, wonderful person. Um, we swapped out in the same bathroom. We swapped out a toilet 3 times because aesthetically they didn't like the same toilet, and I'm like, I can't handle this anymore.
Oh.
And we had once again on accident kind of gotten into buying some apartments,
Mm.
and so we really were liking where that was taking us.
Mm.
So we're like, well, if we could do some more of that.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of where we started like moving more towards real estate at the time.
So this was still North Carolina, or I mean South Carolina,
No,
or it's
so
happening here
this
now?
is happening in Maine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is happening in Maine.
Wow. Wow. So how'd you get from construction? Now, obviously, you got the real estate stuff got happening.
Yeah.
You were like almost becoming an investor, but not an investor yet. You're kind of like dabbling a little bit.
Yeah. So I was broke. That's actually so when we moved to Maine. One of the pieces that was like really challenging from South Carolina was the affordability of things. Very expensive. I mean, I had a nice, small, but it was a brick ranch on the river in South Carolina, and I paid $400 a year in taxes, and my highest utility bill was I think $115 for everything total. You move to Maine, and like it's like I was like, oh my goodness, like it's like I'm like I can't afford to live here. And I was working pretty much full time in construction, but we had the church plant going on at the same time.
Wow.
And so we were looking for houses, and when I was like, if we can buy a multi-unit, like the taxes are almost the same, the insurance is a little bit more, but then you can actually have some offsetting income to kind of help with that. So we tried buying one multi-unit. We kind of failed, and we ended up buying two on accident.
Man.
But then like that first year was like awful because we didn't like. I mean, it was just like we had no idea what we were doing. I mean, we knew what we were doing construction wise, but real estate wise, we had no idea what we were doing. And so we were basically funding the entire project sort of like out of our pockets with money we made during the day. We put it into the buildings at night.
A W-2 job.
Oh yeah, and it was like, but once everything got rented, then we're like, oh, okay, this actually is working pretty good. We bought them right price wise. It just wasn't, the process of doing it wasn't the best.
Wow.
So and once that was done, then we're like, okay, this is pretty cool.
Were you using like FHAs or just like
so
straight conventional?
So I can tell you the story if you want. So there was a 4-unit we looked at.
Yeah.
And it needed everything. I mean, it like roof, foundation, electrical.
Jeez.
Plumbing had been gutted out by vagrants. I mean, it needed everything. It was vacant, and so we put an offer on it for $42,000. I think it's 42, and so we got the offer accepted. And I was so excited. I was like, "This is great!" And then our realtor told us, like, "Oh, he's like, they just let me know that it's a short sale." And I was like, "Well, what's a short sale?" And and basically the answer was like, oh, well, it just takes a really long time. Yeah. And we're like, oh man. So we didn't have a lot of hope that would actually work out. So we kept looking, found a 3-unit, an old Victorian house, put an offer on that one. Yeah. And got it accepted. And then after getting it accepted, they're like, oh, by the way, it's a short sale. And we're like, man, you got to be kidding me.
So now you didn't understand what short sale was at the time.
And no one seemed to have any idea like how to like make it go. It was just like we just wait, and then so then we thought, well, there's no way both of these are gonna close. Wow. Well, and then we got an agreement. So once the bank agreed to it, then I'm like, okay, beautiful. So I go back to my lender, who I had pre-approval from. Yeah. And I was like, hey man, I was like, I've got like this, can we close in 30 days? The bank says I have to close in 30 days. And I went, this is a conventional loan, right? Yeah. And he's like, absolutely not. And then he's like, what is the deal? And thankfully, he was willing to ask questions and actually understand what it was. And he's like, no, we can't close this conventionally. But he said, what we can do is, he said, I can get you private financing, which I didn't know. I mean, this is sort of prior to Bigger Pockets. Yeah. I didn't know what like private money was. I didn't know what hard money was. like we're just like figuring all this out on the fly. So like we borrowed enough to buy the building. Wow. But then we had to do all the repairs and the fixing it up. So that's kind of where we're like, we scrounged and like, I got creative. Oh man. Yeah. But like I said, in hindsight, I would have done it a lot different. But we kind of learned a lot through that process. Yeah. Never thinking we'd do a lot of short sale work, but just like we just had to get through those two. Wow. And then later on, now it's kind of funny, now
you're a legend in it.
Yeah, a decade later, we're doing a lot of it. But that's.
I'm excited to hear that part. So you go from now, you kind of understood a lot from your mistakes.
Oh yeah.
Getting in.
Yeah, it was a beating. Wow. Like in the School of Hard Knocks, we took every course.
Wow. Before we get into the show, what you do in real estate, the short sales. Yeah. I really had this thing. A lot of people ask, right? How do you manage being in real estate, being a pastor? How do you manage? How do you balance that?
It's a good question.
Hmm.
Some may say really well, some may say terribly. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think to me, in some ways, they're driven from the same piece.
Hmm.
Like for me, the question I come back to a lot is like, okay, is there something I could do that's more valuable for the kingdom of God?
Mm.
Like that's the question that I go back to, and I think the opportunity I have at the church, and I say it's an opportunity, it's not like a role or a title, it's an opportunity
Hmm.
that God's currently giving me. That's one way I can serve Him,
Yeah.
and also with what we do in real estate, like we're helping people um, that need someone to come alongside them and help them out.
Hmm.
And I think, wow, what an opportunity in a
To
different
serve.
way to
Hmm.
serve.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting, as you probably know even better than I do, but like, it's not just this transactional thing.
Hmm.
Like we're not working through realtors a lot of times, and we've got great realtors we do work with.
Yeah.
But like a lot of times we're talking face to face with people, and it's
Hmm.
not just the real estate. I mean, the life story comes out,
Yeah.
and the struggles, and the kid issues, and the marriages, and so there's I think a real opportunity
Hmm.
when people are struggling in real estate. There's often a lot of other struggles
Hmm.
that start that struggle,
Yeah.
and to be able to come alongside them in a time where
It
they
would.
don't really have a lot of friends.
Mm.
Maybe they're even a little embarrassed to
Ooh.
actually talk about the situation.
Yeah.
And you can kind of, with dignity and respect, you can kind of come alongside, be a friend, help out.
Hmm.
Um, I think is a real, like I said, I don't feel like they're really dissimilar
Hmm.
in those ways. It's really just kind of caring for people and loving people.
Wow.
Maybe different avenues, like
Yeah. Yeah.
but similar pieces. So
Yeah. I
yeah,
love how you put it together. Like you're serving people here
yeah,
and you're still serving people here.
yes,
And I've been in the houses where you go in appointments and people actually, sometimes we go in prayer. We actually have prayers,
yeah,
and it's crazy.
yeah,
But it's good. It's just to know that you can serve people and meet them where their needs are.
yes,
And real estate happens to be that vehicle that you can actually be able to make money
yes.
at the same time be able to help and serve people.
Correct.
Wow.
Maybe another avenue is I think it allows me to, because I have a job outside, it allows me to put less pressure on the church family
Mm-hmm.
as far as supporting my family goes.
Mm.
And I think it really does give some unique connections to people. I think sometimes people feel like pastors don't really understand because they live in a different world, right?
Mm.
They live in an office or something in a
Yeah.
church building. I would argue that's probably not really true because they deal with a lot of people
Mm.
all the time. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it's like, no, that's probably realistic. I mean, we wouldn't accuse a doctor of not understanding dealing with injuries because they're not out getting injured.
Mm.
In a similar way, I think pastors really understand more than most people give them credit.
Yeah.
But I think it does help, like, people can connect and relate. They're like, oh, you got like a normal job, you get the
Mm.
stresses.
Mm.
So I said, I don't think it's a true gap as much as it's a perceived gap. And I
Yeah.
think it does help with that perceived gap. People are like, oh, like I know what you do real estate.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So you go from being broke starting church
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty close. Yeah.
to obviously you see a way in real estate that can
Yes.
make, provide
Yes.
and stabilize your ministry and your calling,
Correct. Yeah.
right? How do you go about people that kind of now and then say, hey, how can a man of God, be doing business? How can a pastor, be talking about business and money? I get a lot of that. I get a lot of
Yeah.
DMs on that.
Yeah.
It's like you're talking about money a lot. Like, it's like, what is your say on people that view money as evil and all of these things?
Yeah. Good question. I mean, first of all, Jesus talked about money more than he talked about heaven or hell. Now,
Mm.
he did talk about heaven or hell, but he talked about money a lot.
Yeah.
And money is really just a value token. Money's inherently worthless,
Mm.
whatever form. I don't Bitcoin, whatever. It's inherently worthless.
Mhm.
It's a value exchange.
Yeah.
It's easier than carrying around your bag of chickens or some rocks of gold.
Yeah.
It's a value exchange.
Yes.
And so to me, it's really about providing value.
Mhm.
And so no, what Jesus does talk about, that people misquote him a lot. He talks about like not money is the root of all evil, but the love of
The
money.
love of money.
And when I love money for what it does for me.
Mm.
Like I love it for like what I can buy. I love it for like what I can achieve. I love it for like what I can show people on my bank statement. Like I love like the ego trip. Like I love the power feel.
Mm.
Like so when Jesus is warning, he's like, hey, like that there's a selfishness to the love of money
Mm.
that is like very infectious and pervasive. And we all have to be careful about that.
Yes.
But he says the love of money, it's not money itself. Like so to me, I think on the Christian perspective, I think it's creating value for others.
Mm.
So like if I'm in it for like me getting a deal or me getting an opportunity, like my head's all twisted around. I need to get that
Mm.
straight.
Yeah.
Like if I'm saying, hey, like how do I serve you? What are your needs? Like how can I help you? How can I be a blessing to you? Um, Typically, money follows that. Not always, not in every arena, but
Mm-hmm.
typically that's rewarded. And the more value someone's willing to provide,
Mm-hmm.
the more value is received.
Yes.
Like not
Wow.
always, but that's a typical
Mm-hmm.
piece. And you look at the Old Testament, that's actually, like we're going through the book of Proverbs as a
Mm-hmm.
church family,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of conversation about money,
Mm-hmm.
including generosity. And so like that's providing value. So in our family, we talk a lot about providing value. Like whatever space that we're in, we wanna serve,
Yeah.
and we wanna make it better
Yes.
than we entered it. My dad always said, like, leave it better than you found it.
Mm.
And that's kind of so. And then money often follows that.
Mm.
Yeah, not always,
Wow.
but often.
Do you believe that if it wasn't for you being in real estate, do you think you could effectively still be able to run the church from the time you were getting started?
Um, that's an interesting question. So I was in construction first before real estate.
Yeah.
So I would say yes, because I've done something else
Mm-hmm.
while also pastoring.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably pros and cons to that. Like I
Mm-hmm.
would say, in one hand, I think there's opportunities and people I would have never connected to
Mm-hmm.
had I just been working a traditional, like, full-time pastoring
Mm-hmm.
role.
Yeah.
Maybe there's other people that I haven't been able to connect to because of that too, right? It could be
Yeah.
a barrier the other way.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, sometimes I have a lot of energy and I have a lot of crazy in my head.
Yeah.
And so I think like having two roles kind of divides the crazy and
Mm.
doesn't overload any one side.
Mm.
And I think God hardwires everyone differently.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of friends who are full-time in ministry, and that's amazing. And I've got some who are
Yeah.
like they're running two jobs. That's
Mhm.
amazing. Like
Yeah.
so I'd say like whatever God calls you to, try to like run that to its fullest.
Exactly.
And so I think for my personality, it really seems like it works, and I think
Yeah.
I can minister through that. But I try to check in with God every now and then and be like, hey, do you want something different? Do you want this? Like, what do we?
Is what I'm doing right?
Yeah.
And am I
Yeah.
still in the line?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's amazing, man. Wow. So, my mentor always talks about that. Obviously, my mentor is in business as well.
Mhm.
And he talks a lot that you can have a lot of anointing, but if you don't have the funds to carry out, God's
Yeah.
work, then the anointing that's over your life almost becomes nothing.
Mhm.
Because a lot of the time when you depend so much, well, there's ministry that can depend on, the members.
Yes.
And then there's ministry that just really can't really depend on the members as much.
Mhm.
But for the fact that you're able to do that, be able to, have a way to solidly support the ministry without leaning too much on the members and things like that, I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
For sure. Wow. So I love how you answer the questions. I want to go to, you getting into social and the kind of business that you do.
Mhm.
How did you start focusing and choosing your niche in real estate? Real estate is so big.
Yeah. So on accident again, like God pushes the path a lot,
Yeah.
So when we had the construction company,
Mm-hmm.
I thought, okay, we want to do more real estate. We particularly wanted to have more buy and hold
Mm-hmm.
properties.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I need more cash to do that than is being generated by construction.
Yes.
So we were like, well, we could flip houses because I've heard of that and we know how to do construction already, and we bought some property.
Mhm.
So like, this will be perfect.
Mhm.
And we started looking out on I spent like probably maybe 2 months looking on the MLS, realtor.com, talking to my
Perfetto.
realtors, couldn't find any deals.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it felt like it was all overpriced. The numbers didn't work.
Mm.
And so then I was like, well, I'm going to have to figure out how to find my own deals. So I
Yeah.
just started calling all the bandit signs, like all those signs on the side of the road, because I figured, well, if they were buying, maybe they want to sell them too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was kind of just, like I said, there wasn't really bigger. This was 2014, 15.
Yeah.
So there's some great resources now that didn't seem like they were quite as common at the time.
Yeah.
So anyway, we just were like, so I was just dumb enough to try, and then
Wow.
I met this this real estate group, and this guy was like, hey, here's what I do, and I was like, I could do that. So I went out and like, so I came back and then I was like, hey, here's what I did. And like, what do I do next? And he's like, you actually did it? I was like, why not? Like, I mean, you told me like,
Wow.
and so he was someone that was very kind to me. And I just was like, I was like, hey, we got into it. And then I met somebody, um, I just was like I said, I'm just dumb enough to think if it worked for somebody else, it could work for me.
Mm.
And so I like, there was this duplex, knocked on the door. It was a situation where the landlord, felt held hostage by the tenants.
Mm.
What the actuality of the situation, yeah, I know there's always layers to it, but that's what she
Yeah.
felt like.
Yeah.
And so anyway, she was behind on the mortgage. Didn't know what to do. She couldn't even she didn't feel safe living there. And I was like, well, I want to buy the house. So how do I figure that out? And so I went to this guy and I was like, hey, I got this opportunity. I don't know how to handle this. He did short sales. And I was like, I'll split the deal with you 50-50 if you can kind of not just do it for me, but actually like walk me through the process that you use. Because I'm like, I want to learn, but I'm also like happy to like, I got this opportunity that I need your help with, and hopefully we both win. And we both did win, as a result of that. And we helped the lady. I mean, she was so grateful to have that resolved. And I think even seeing the gratitude of like we got a house like that we were looking for, but like seeing like her life situation resolved, I was like, wow, like that was like surprising. Like, I mean, and since then, I mean, I've been hugged at the closing table. I've had people crying. I mean, like the relief that's just there.
Yeah.
So I was like,
you're solving problems.
Yes.
Big problems, actually.
Very big problems. And people like they're embarrassed at the problems at times.
Yeah.
And so then we're like, well, we need to get really good at finding deals. So what kind of happened is I think we kind of did get good at finding deals, but there's so many deals we couldn't do them all. So then all of a sudden we were like, well, we need to stay kind of focused on this. So we flip houses and we've got some buy and holds and stuff like that. But I think our team at this point is really oriented on like solving problems, finding deals, and then like we partner with other investors, on the exit side of things. But yeah, so that wasn't our intention. Was to become like we wanted to just flip houses.
Yeah.
And we just couldn't get the deal source regular enough to flip houses. So that's kind of why we went this other direction, sort of on accident.
So accidentally, but it's actually a way where now it's like, okay, this is actually a great place for me to be.
Yeah, no, we really enjoy the space. We're not like I mean, it's just interesting how a journey starts out one way and then you end up somewhere else and you're like, this is nice.
To be honest, when I look at you as, especially in your niche, I look at you like the king of short sale.
Oh no.
Because I've done so many deals.
Yeah.
But I've never really gone that route of short sale, because for me that's like, oh man, that's just a long way, like
yeah.
I feel like, you know what, I could be doing 2 or 3 deals before I get done with one, but you mastered that like crazy.
Well, and sometimes the timing still takes a long time. I mean, in fairness, I mean, sometimes we will be, we've had short sales that take 2 years. So there's a level of patience with it. I mean, most of them don't take 2 years. I'd say like 6 months, 3 to 6 months tends to be more normative. But like, I mean, every now and then life happens. So, so yeah, there's a patience required with it. We've got great people that we work with. We've got a process now that's pretty detailed. It takes a lot of different pieces that you're putting together to kind of get a short sale through like successfully.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't do just short sale. I mean, we do regular, distressed and probate situations and
a lot of things.
Yeah, so a lot of different pieces. A little bit of land, multifamily tenant situations, lead paint.
Everything.
So we do all like the grungy stuff, and then like and we'll do a couple rehabs, but usually at that point in time, we're just trying to get the deal cleaned up.
Yeah.
And then kind of ready for an investor who specializes in flips. Because it's almost like a whole different business model.
Yeah.
Like, and they've got colors picked out and fixtures and furniture and contractors. Now we've some. Yeah. But if it's a really extensive one, we'll partner with somebody else.
It's better to do that part, your part, and let somebody else.
And honestly, a lot of other investors feel the same way. So they say, hey, like, I've got all these addresses. I haven't spent any time chasing them. Can you chase them for us? Let us know if you get them. Or I've got the short sale. Can you handle it? So like it's a nice symbiotic relationship. So if we get a deal from an investor, like if you give me an address and say I don't have time to follow up on it, like we follow up on it, and then if we get it, we work together on the deal and we get it back to you. So I think a lot of other investors have the opposite problem that we have, is they're like so busy like doing the construction
They
and
can't
putting in the
really get to.
septic.
Yeah.
And they're like, I've been sitting on these leads forever. I just need. So
Somebody
it
to take
works.
over.
Yeah, it works well both ways.
Wow.
Yeah.
So for people who don't know what short sale is,
Yeah.
like nothing about short sale, nothing about real estate.
Yes.
What is short sale?
Yeah. So a short sale is not short time wise, obviously, typically, but basically it's where if you got a mortgage and you're behind on your mortgage and you're behind enough that you owe more on the property than it's worth. So there's a process called short sale in which like there can be a negotiation with the bank to basically release the debt and sign over the rights to the property in order to clear that up and move on. The advantages for, I think there's a couple advantages for someone, and obviously it's not the ideal situation. It's kind of, tell people, it's like, hey, if you got cancer, chemo is not ideal. No one's like, hey, I really like chemo, but chemo can be great if you're dealing with a bigger issue. And so short sale is not something you're like, man, I really want to do it in my life, but if you need it, it's a very valuable tool for it. And so the advantages for people is like, hey, they can walk away, debt free on this piece. Credit rebuilding is much faster typically than foreclosure. So like short sale is usually somewhere in the 2-year period for debt, for credit rebuilding.
Yeah.
And people don't think of like, it's not just credit cards, it's like auto loans and home loans and student loans and utilities are all kind of wrapped up into that now.
Yeah.
Foreclosures like 5 to 7 years impact. So that's a big difference. And then I think there's even a piece of the psychologically taking control and being like, hey, like I'm gonna be proactive. I can't do everything I wish I could do.
Yeah.
But I can do something. And like I think there's psychologically that's a real empowering thing for people to take the action that they could take. So the short sale is basically the banks agreeing to take less than what they're owed on the balance.
Yeah.
And if people like don't notice a lot, but like if you are a couple months behind on your payments, like payments seem to almost double pretty quickly. So like if your monthly payment is $2,000, if you're behind 3 to 4 months, then it'll start going to $4,000 a month.
Wow.
And it racks up pretty quickly where people have a hard time getting out from under that.
Yeah.
So
you focus on solving those problems.
Yes.
And you focus on pre-foreclosures, obviously, and then everything else that we also do as well.
Yeah.
But wow. So is it because you went through that? Is it because your first property that you bought was a short?
Yeah. So actually, my first property that we bought to flip wasn't a short sale.
Okay.
It was one that I had a referral from somebody. It was up in Augusta.
Yeah.
And I was like, sure, we'll go take a look at it. And like they, I saw the potential in it. I'm like the eternal optimist. I'm like, oh, we could do this, And anyway, I didn't know. I mean, this is the first one we'd done like person to person with someone without a realtor.
Yeah.
So I printed a contract off the internet. We came to terms on agreement. I took it to the title company, and they're like, "This is garbage. Don't ever use this again."
Wow.
But the deal closed. Like we had an agreement. We like so that was the first that we had done.
And I love that,
Yeah. Oh yeah. We took action. I was like, it wasn't great action, but and the title company's like, here's what you need to use next time. Perfect. No problem. So it wasn't quite written on the back of a napkin, but it wasn't far off. It was not good. So, but yeah, I think when we figured out that we're like, okay, this is a problem that people are dealing with. This is something that we could get good at.
Yeah.
And we could help people at. And like what we like to have, it's not the only tool. We have a lot of, so like our landlording experience is helpful for dealing with landlord situations. And I've dealt with lead paint buildings. And so a lot of that's like, we're trying to solve the problems to get houses back on the market. We talk in Maine, we have such a housing shortage, but there's houses that are just sitting vacant because people don't know how to resolve the issues. So for us, it's like, hey, we want to have like a number of tools to solve the person's problem. So like I don't want to say, oh, you're a short seller, or you're not, I can't help you. No, like, hey, what's your need? What's your situation? Yeah. And then let's work together to figure out if we can kind of create a way to help you have a path forward. Wow. So we view short sale as one of many tools. Wow. Like that we kind of deal with.
Yeah. I'm planning on an event.
Okay.
I know this is like a quick talk.
Yeah.
But I'm planning an event where you can actually come, break down the process.
Yeah.
Because I think
I'd be happy to.
Because I would be learning about your process, how it works.
Yeah.
So that I can also have that skill. And so besides that, what is some of the toughest challenge that you faced during the journey of real estate? I had some serious
That's
ones.
a good question.
I had some serious ones when I was working like 7 project fix and flips at a time,
Yep.
where you'd run by, cash disappears quickly. You make
Yes.
a lot of money, and then out of nowhere, you got like all these projects going on. You got to pay 40, 50 here and everything.
Yes.
Money goes quick.
Yes.
So you find sometimes, and wholesaling, same thing. We've gone through where times where the deal is supposed to close, where somebody has packed up this stuff and you promise them that they're gonna close, and you are here to solve their problem, and it doesn't happen, and so you go to bed like, oh man, like you feel some type of way. What are some of the toughest challenge that you have faced while going through the journey and overcoming in them?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think one of the biggest challenges that and like I got a team of people I work with, and we talk about this, is that the internal challenge of staying focused on your core values during those times.
I like that.
So it's like, it's easy to get in a spot when you're tight, and we all get those spots. Particularly, it's not like this is a 9 to 5 where you get a paycheck every week or 2 weeks, right? Like, so there's times where like you're like, man, like we are like flush, and there's times where like we are lean, and that happens. Like, it's just timing, sequence. I mean, I got a deal right now that was supposed to close a month and a half ago. I think it'll still close, but it's just like well, if you're planning on that scheduling just gets all out of whack, right? But I think in those moments is trying to, like, the temptation is to become like, I need a deal, I need like you're trying to like make it happen for you, and I think in those moments to try to say, no, I still need to. My goal is to provide value.
And not about you, right?
Yeah, it's not about me.
Yeah.
But that's a struggle when we get in those spots.
Yes.
So I think that's actually probably the biggest struggle, is just that recurring fight to say, no, even in those moments, that's especially when I need to be really focused on like, okay, so maybe, it's not wrong to say, hey, I need something to pay my bills. Okay, great. So how do I provide value for somebody else
so that
to make that happen? And when you approach life with that selfish mentality, I don't think it's good for our souls. It's not how God said it, designed us to be. I think other people read that too, and I don't know how, but they're like it doesn't not only does it not work.
Yeah.
I don't think it's good for us. And so I think that's actually one of I'd say the biggest struggle is like, hey, like learning to be like, nope, like I'm in the spot I'm in. Like, okay, either I need to learn something from it, or God's teaching me something through it, but I need to stay focused on like really trying to provide value instead of becoming selfish in those moments.
Yes.
That it's easy to like feel like we're looking out for ourselves.
Yeah.
So.
And I love how you said trials. Obviously, the good book talks about, your trials, build character.
Yeah.
And actually, your character becomes better. It builds patience.
Yes.
It builds endurance and all of that stuff. Do you believe that as, like the situations that you've been through added a lot of that to you?
Yeah, I think either you'd get out of it and do something else, or you need to develop that character and that, I say, reliance on God, and just that trust and that focus on trying to do the right thing by people. And sometimes it's complicated. I mean, you know that, right? Like there's complications, and sometimes you're like, I don't even know what the right course of action is there, but trying to stay focused on that, I think, does build that endurance, and that God develops that over time. And there's situations now you look at, you're like, oh man, like I look back at our first multi-unit, I could have done that 10 ways easier now.
Yeah.
But like I think there's something that God used in the character side of things that if I'd missed out on those pieces, maybe I wouldn't be the person I am today. So yeah.
So you needed to go through that. God actually allows you.
Yes.
To go through that.
Yes.
Even people that don't believe in God, you go through those things.
Well, it's kind of funny. So I was thinking about this, like if you go to the gym, right? Yeah. And you hire a coach or a personal trainer, like they tell you like, hey, like here's the exercise that you need. Like, I mean, I had injured my back, and I was like, go to my chiropractor. Hey, what exercise do I need to like not do this again? And it was the second time I'd injured it, and she's like, do this exactly this way, and do this many times a week. And I was like, okay. And now those exercises aren't fun.
Yeah.
Like it's not like, woo, I get to do more squats. It's like awesome. But like they're again, like it's like, well, if I trust her that if she's causing me pain, right? Yeah. But she wants what's best for me. If I can trust her, and she's amazing, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, well, why wouldn't I be able to trust God that like He allows and puts in my path the things that I need to develop to the person that is most fully there? Like, I mean, He's like the ultimate coach, if you will, in that analogy.
Yeah.
And it's like, but yet like we take it from a chiropractor, but when God puts it in our life, we throw a fit.
Yeah.
It feels kind of a little misplaced judgment on our end.
Yeah. Do you believe that having the right people around you especially the spouses, the people that are
Yeah.
around you during those times. Do you believe that those are the core times where those people can really help you?
Yes, the people around you is absolutely critical. Like, having the right people around you, like, I can't say enough. Like, the blessing of God by the people around me is just like amazing.
Mm.
Like, it's like I could have not a cent to my name, and the people around me are just, I'm richer than everybody. Like, I mean, I feel like I'm the 1% because of the people of the people that God's put in my
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
You know,
Mm.
and I think it's just such a blessing that those people that they put up with you, and they like still enjoy you, and they're there to kind of check you when you're being dumb.
Yeah.
They're there to kind of help you up when you're struggling.
Yeah.
They're there to celebrate the wins with you. I mean, they provide different resources and abilities and personalities
Yeah.
and talents. And I just think oh my goodness, like it's like, I mean, I've got a very skinny gift set, you know, and I try to operate in that, but there's all these other people that God puts together, and it just makes it something absolutely amazing.
Man.
That it could never be with just Andrew.
Yeah, yeah. So how does your team look like? You know, obviously you got blue sky
Yep.
properties.
Yep.
How does your team look like? I mean, Rob was here. He
Yes.
talks a lot about great stuff. You know, how did you put a team together? How are you recruiting? You know, putting the right team members, people that would be there to support you when you need to, when you're going through things, or they have the same mentality, the same mindset,
Yeah.
so that you can grow together. How does
Yeah, some good questions. So, we call them deal architects, but they're people just trying to solve problems for people.
Yeah.
Really is what we're all trying to do.
Yeah.
And so I'm not doing a lot of the reaching out at this point in time. That's not my primary focus.
Yeah.
I'm working more with the investor side of things on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it's not something for everybody, and it's not something for most people. So when people ask, and I get asked, you know, occasionally, and people say, hey, like, I'm interested in learning what you do in real estate, or like, I saw this, like, you know, listen to this podcast, or saw this, and I'm always like, oh, why do you want to do it? And they're like, oh, I want to make money, and I'm like, you're not the right fit. Like, I don't mean that.
No, yeah, I understand. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, hey, like, if you're not driven by providing value for people, like, you're not the right fit for our team. Like, if you're not trying to help people, if you're just trying to like figure out how you can make a couple quick bucks because you saw it on a seminar, that's not the fit for our team. Because it's hard. Like, there's times it is a grind, and there's times that people are difficult.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and both of those are true. And so if it's just money, there's faster ways to make a buck. Now, like, I think it does compensate pretty well, but it doesn't compensate pretty well immediately. And then two is like just the ability to like put in the reps. So there's so much skill that's developed. I think we as Americans, in my opinion, are not really good at communication. We think we know how to talk, therefore we know how to communicate. Two different things. Get married, you figure that out real quick, right?
Yes.
And so learning to communicate with people, particularly people who are often under duress of some kind, it takes a skill set. Like, it takes time.
Yes.
I mean, you talk to Tony, and you know, he's got the grit to kind of keep learning, and we critique each other and we work on it, all out of the goal to try to help people, right? So if you're not willing to put in the grind, if you can't ever hear no, if you can't deal with someone being upset at you, like, it's not gonna work out for you. Like, it's just not going to, until you can develop that internal character. Now, what I tell people is like, hey, this is like a perfect opportunity. Like, what we learn in real estate, like, helps us be better communicators with our kids and our spouses and our church family members and our friends. So, like, they're transferable skills. So I think, man, like, and I mean, you know, you go to college, you spend $120,000 for college today. Like, you don't have to actually spend any money. You just have to commit yourself to the time to growing as a person.
Yeah.
But if you can't do that, and you can't do it regularly enough, it's not a good fit.
Wow.
So, like, Rob, to his credit, I mean, he is a grinder, and sometimes he didn't always. I'm not telling you anything he would tell you, but like, he was like, I want to try a different approach. And we're like, maybe it works. Because we're always learning too, right?
Yes.
And together we've modified some stuff, and we've improved, and we keep on growing, and we keep developing. And each person that comes brings in. There's a new guy we just brought on, and like, he's brought some insights that, like, oh man, none of us had thought of that, and they're really good. And so we're always growing, but we also expect that those people are always growing it too.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, hey, if you're willing to grow, if you're willing to grind, And if you're focused on providing value, then we're interested in conversation. If you're not, like, no hard feelings,
Yeah.
it's just not a good fit for who we are as a culture. You know, so
I love that.
that's kind of like how we vet people.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like, you know, and there's some great people we've had that just don't over time. They're like, yeah, this is too hard. You know, it's not easy. It's not the hardest.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I've done like roofing in the summer in South Carolina. That seems harder.
Yeah.
But it's not easy. Like, it's more of a character, and I think an emotional fortitude that you have to
Mentally.
have. Yeah,
Mentally
mental
then.
strong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
So
I love how you put things, right? You spoke earlier from the beginning. It's like when somebody told you, you know, how to get started. I love how you were so coachable.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I feel like you're me, right? It's like, tell me, okay, this is how we get started.
Yeah.
I actually printed my first I printed my contract from YouTube, the guy that I used to follow.
Nice.
You know, and
I love it.
so,
Better than mine, probably. I should have on YouTube.
So I love how you say the guy told you, hey, do this. And you just, and that's how you know that, is this person gonna last?
Yes.
Or no?
Yeah.
Because I give people an assignment, right? Like, okay, you want to do this.
Yes.
All right. I tell people, you want to get your first deal.
Yep.
You want to do what I do.
Yes.
Okay. You should go for about 90 days.
Yep.
If do you have money? How are you starting it? Do you want to get started wholesaling? You want to start doing fix and flip? How do you want to start it? But whatever you're gonna start, make sure you're gonna be consistent.
Yes.
And if I give them a homework, I say, hey, if you don't have money, go do driving for $1 for 90 days straight.
Yes.
So that's how you're gonna know. Like, you also, you know, kind of give a little bit of something to say, to see if this person is, if this is really gonna be a good fit for somebody, right?
Yes.
And so I did a video the other day, and it talks about who is an entrepreneur. And I said that in my video that if you are not willing to become, you're not willing to sacrifice.
Yes.
Then it's not a bad thing not to be an entrepreneur, right?
No, absolutely.
You still live.
Yeah.
But it requires you, everybody can become, but you have to be willing to develop that mental mindset.
Yes.
To be okay when things are happening.
Yep.
And you don't have controls of it.
Yes.
And it takes guts and trust.
Yeah.
And that's why you see a lot of people like you, legends like you, that have been in the game for so long. I mean, I spoke about it earlier, that you were already way in before I got in. Yeah. And I'm still seeing you strive, and that's a beautiful thing. And you're building teams and things like that.
Yeah.
Maybe one more question before we finish is like, what kind of books are you reading?
Oh man.
To have this kind of mentality.
Yeah.
You know.
So probably the best. Maybe I'll throw out a couple. I love books, so it's you hit a favorite subject. One of my favorite books on money, apart from the Bible. Like, so you guys start with the Bible for favorite book. Like, if most people, it's like one of those books they talk about and have opinions and never read it. Yeah. Go read it, okay? Go read it. Then come back and let's talk. Yeah. But for non-God inspired books, there's a book on money that really changed my perspective on it, called "Thou Shalt Prosper." I don't know if you've read that.
Is it by Napoleon Hill?
No, it's by Rabbi Lapin. It's a Jewish rabbi who wrote it.
Okay.
And obviously heavily based in the Old Testament, first part of the Bible, but you're gonna read it and you're gonna be like, oh my goodness, like, and the it really, the principles are across the entire Bible. Completely changed the way I view money, and I think it's a must read.
Wow, I need to go read it now.
Yeah, right now. Stop the cameras. Another one that I really like is Never Split the Difference. You've probably read that one.
I've heard about that one. I
okay,
haven't read it
that one is a really that one's fantastic on negotiating. Yeah. So that one I really value. There's another one called the Four Tendencies. And so it's there's really complicated personality tests that are fun to look at. Yeah. But basically, it's saying you can somewhat divide people into 4 different motivations, and then when you're working with them, their motivations are what their drivers are, right? So it's like, hey, if we're gonna work together quickly, I need to know what motivates you and how your thoughts are structured. And the 4 Tendencies is like both a hilariously enlightening and very helpful look at kind of how God hardwired people. Yes. and kind of seeing how those work together or sometimes don't, and how you kind of get through those pieces. So those are a couple that, like, to me, are sort of like classic, like, go-to books that I think everybody should read those.
Absolutely. Absolutely. To stay in the game.
Yes. And I mean, I mean, I'm constantly reading. I'm constantly trying to take in new information, look at the world differently, study different pieces. So, like, I think I don't think you ever stay level. So you're either growing or you're dying.
Exactly.
Like, I don't think anyone can be like stay where they're at. You're either continuing to gain, you're continuing to grow, you look at the world in new ways, or you're falling backwards.
Yeah.
So
it's just like this electronic companies that the moment they're not updating their, the newest phone, people stop buying them, and things happen, companies close and things. So we are wired the same way, and I was so grateful to be somebody who loved to read and work on themselves. The only people you're gonna find that stick around is those who continually work on themselves. Reinvest in yourself. Go to conferences. I was so blessed. I met a billionaire when I was in network marketing, and he gave me this thing to say, read a good book. Read a book. If you don't have time, read only 10 pages a day.
Okay.
And if you don't have that, and that's where the 1% come from. And if you don't have that time, play an audiobook. Something that will help you.
So audiobooks changed my life. So I look at my white hair. I'm at the stage of life where, I mean, I'm working a good bit, and then when I sit down, I just fall asleep. My kids make fun of me. I'm like, give me the recap of the show. What happened? I don't care. Like, and for a little bit period of time, as much as I love reading and learning, I was kind of like, oh, I'm just all falling asleep. And then I'm like, I drive, like, I work out. I could be listening to audiobooks during that time. So it's like, I think we have now, I don't know, over 1,000 books in our audio library. It costs money, but the investment's well worth it. And I can do that and so if you can't read the paper book or don't want to read it or fall asleep like me, get into something. Like, we don't have any excuses anymore. You used to go to like the library and get a scroll out. Now you can like listen to it on your phone. It's amazing.
Wow. Well, Pastor Andrew, I cannot wait to host another event with you. Maybe there'll be people there and questions, networking. I'll be sending you the dates and things like that, and I would really love to have you there. But it's been such a pleasure to have you here, and there's so much in you that you have not released yet, and I can feel it and I know it. And so it's an honor for you to be here, and I'm so blessed to see that somebody like you who is teaching people, building teams, not only that, building young people. People like us, we can relate to you, and so it's a pleasure to have people like you who can stand and hold our hands and even coach us, mentor us, and help us grow. And so I can't wait to have another event with you.
I'd love to.
It'll be beautiful.
I'd love to.
So for everybody that is here, the call to action is, you've heard a lot of good things, right? You heard a lot of good things on, how he got started and what he's doing now. And so the call to action is to go and do something. The first thing to do is to get knowledge, and if you need to go rewatch this, go rewatch it. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and turn on the notifications so that you get the next videos and things like that to help bury your mind yourself. More than that, make sure that you take action, whether you're a real estate entrepreneur, whatever business you're looking to start. Make sure you put a plan of action together, and make sure you take that action consistently so that you can actually succeed. And so I'm so blessed to have you be with us here, and Pastor Andrew. So God bless you, and I wish you the best. And make sure you leave comments for us on the YouTube page. And also make sure you get a chance to contact Pastor Andrew. Pastor Andrew, how can people find you before we go?
The church is Grace Point Church in Biddeford, Maine.
Okay.
And so people can go there, website, Facebook, blueskyproperties.biz is our company site. Facebook is there as well. Shoot us a message, and I'd love to connect if I can.
Awesome. So if you are a lender, or you are a private money guy, you want to invest with Pastor Andrew, or you just, you love or you're in a short-term kind of short sell situation right now, and you need to reach him, he's the guy. And so,
so I appreciate it.
Yeah, make sure you reach out to him, Facebook him. Andrew Warde is his name on Facebook, and it's Blue Skies. make sure you connect, and people like him can lift your hand and help you go there.
Hey, man, I
So,
appreciate it.
yeah, thank you
Thank
so
you
much,
so
brother.
much.
God bless.
Thank you.
Amen.